This podcast is going to be my rubric for how I judge every movie, but in particular, how I judge action movies. So in this episode, I have a rubric, which is just 3 questions. I look at the movie and I ask these 3 questions, and if the movie has a good answer to these 3 questions, that to me is what makes it a successful movie. First, how does the action define the character? Second, how does the action scene affect the rest of the story? And number 3, what is the meaning and or consequences of the violence? Notice that for this question, I turn action into violence because at the end of the day, action most of the time is violence. So the opening scene of Blade, we have this young couple going on a drive. This young woman takes a young man to this underground club in a meatpacking facility. And it seems at first to be one of those crazy great rave spots that you would want to attend. Everyone's dancing, they're rocking hard. You can tell that everyone here is having a great time as far as clubs go. The music is excellent. And then all of a sudden, blood starts pouring out of the sprinkler system. And this is what's called the famous blood rave sequence of Blade. And this guy comes to find out that the girl who brought him here is a vampire, and that in fact he is the lone human amongst all these vampires. And not only that, he's going to be their food. So immediately as the blood starts pouring, he realizes he's dancing in blood and wants to get out of there. He freaks out. He starts getting beat up by these vampires. And so even before Blade shows up, let's talk about how these vampires are established. Okay, now this is a violent scene, right? This is not an action scene. He's being violently attacked by these vampires. But what is this opening blood rave expose to us about these characters? It shows that the vampires are deceptive, they're sadistic, and also they're deeply sexual beings. So they have no inhibitions. You're seeing them dance in the blood rave. A dance club tends to be where people do tend to have some kind of sexual dancing or sexual behavior. But not only that, it's not just, free sex society, but it is a violent society that is feeding on the innocent, or at least this young man who's, however innocent he is in real life, he definitely doesn't seem to be a bad person, but he's just coming out to have a good time, and now he's going to be this horrific victim of violence. And when we get the introduction of Blade, all of a sudden the blood sprinkling stops. Everyone seems like they're having a good time. Our initial victim, who has been beat up already by the vampires, is trying to crawl and get away from them. And all of a sudden, all the vampires stop in fear. And Blade, who is standing completely still, clad in black, covered in armor, has appeared. And immediately, the vampires go to attack him. He attacks back. And you see him use all of his incredible array of weapons. The vampires are exploding into ash and flame. And it's a really incredible action sequence. And we see our initial character, the guy who's going to become a victim of these vampires, he's trying to run away, and Blade stops him and he checks him for bites. And you kind of realize not only has Blade saved his life, but he's also being very careful and making sure that he's not about to be another vampire running around in the world. And so what this tells you about Blade as a character is he's tactical, he's efficient, but also he's very contained. So while the rest of our vampires are, either shirtless or basically shirtless, they're all very free physically and they're very free sexually. Blade, on the other hand, he's very repressed, he's very contained. And much of this movie is about his self-repression because he hates the fact that he is half vampire. And not only that, but he's compassionate and he's careful. He makes sure that this human lives. He's here to protect human beings. Even though he may not be the nicest person, he still has this compassionate value system that goes unspoken. It's purely visually that you see he has saved this man's life, but also he's making sure he's not going to become a vampire, because that is his life's purpose, to kill vampires. And then, okay, so this is how we define our characters. We've defined the characters. What's next? How does the action affect the story? Well, this action sequence is essentially the inciting incident that motivates the very next scene, which introduces our villain character, Deacon Frost. And Deacon Frost is called to a meeting with the Council of Vampires, and they're judging him for starting these blood rave clubs that have all been infiltrated by Blade, who's also killing their vampires. He's taken down the numbers. And this is the establishment of Deacon Frost's conflict with the council, and he's telling them, why are we hiding from humans? We are better than them, we're stronger than them, we should be top of the pecking order. And so this opening action sequence is not just there for kicks. It does, for the most part, just establish what our main character is about, but at the same time, it's a motivation for everything that follows. If Blade did not intervene and fight and kill vampires in the scene, we would not get Deacon Frost being criticized by the Council of Vampires, but also we wouldn't have this establishing of the Council of Vampires and how the hierarchy of the vampire society works.